It's very exciting to see everybody. Welcome to the University Scholar Series for fall 2022. I'm very excited to have Keenan Norris here today. It's great to see such an awesome audience here in the library. I know there's a lot more people online. The virtuosity of our lives has allowed us to continue to deliver things in multiple modalities. So it's great to be here. So I want to begin with, we move to our land acknowledgement. I've got a couple of housekeeping items before I do my introduction, and then really turn it over so that Keenan can use the time, because you came here to listen to him and not to me. So let's get through first the land acknowledgement and some of the other issues, and make sure we're rocking and rolling here. I'm going to turn that a little bit off. So with the land acknowledgement, and maybe, okay. See, you told me, you look at me. You said I wouldn't break it. You were a liar. There we go. Okay. Okay, we got to hit it again. There we go. Nope, dude. Thanks. Oh, it's not playing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I will read it myself. Maybe. Oh, okay. We'll try this. No, I'm not going to be able to do it. Okay. We'll give it one more shot here. And I apologize. I'll have a handwritten copy of it next time. You can actually run downstairs. Can you give me the big giant fold mic? Because we have it at the front of the library. Okay. Well, I'm going to move on then, so we don't take up too much time. And I apologize for that not working. So live captioning is going to be enabled, so you'll be able to find that. The webinar is being recorded and we post that, so you'll get to watch me do all that stuff, right? Live over and over and over again. So I have the opportunity to share that. And if you have questions, you can put them in the Q&A. Please don't put them in the chat. We don't tend to see them there. We'll moderate that Q&A when this is over. So I have to thank, of course, a lot of the sponsors that help make this possible. My office, my team, Melanie's, who's on the line. Hi, Melanie, is paying attention from the provost's office. The library, an outstanding partner here, fantastic team, as you can see, ready and able to assist a not so great provost who can't manage to get the video to work when we're here. The Department of English and Comparative Lit, the home department of Keenan Norris, the Spartan Bookstore, and the Division of Research and Innovation all jumped in. So with that, let me just do a quick introduction for those. Many of you know Keenan Norris, but I want to just give a few sort of shout outs to his work and contextualize a little bit of today. For those who don't know Keenan, he's an associate professor, recently promoted. Congratulations. I will say early as well, with quite the bit of honors and flair. It's an outstanding accomplishment for him here. He received his doctorate in 2013 from the University of California, Riverside, and a Master of Fine Arts in English and Creative Writing from Mills College in 2005. His book, The Confessions of Copeland Cane, which is absolutely a fascinating read, just won the 2022 Northern California Book Award for Fiction, which is absolutely incredible. His work has been acknowledged in a number of other places. And if I spent time going through all the different ways in which Keenan has been recognized, Keenan literally would have no time to talk today. He's also written a couple other books, By the Lemon Tree, Brother and the Dancer, all of whom have received critical acclaim. He's been the editor-in-chief of Read Magazine, the 2019 issue. He's received multiple honors, and he's been able to publish his work not just in single-authored fiction, but in places such as the Encyclopedia of Contemporary American Fiction and the Oxford Bibliographies in African American Studies, amongst many other places. So it's really exciting to have him here today to talk through some of his thinking. He's on sabbatical right now, and he's got a little more time to chew on the ideas. And its talk will be the state of the state, regional writing about the past, present, and future state of planet California. Keenan, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Vin, Anina, the tech team, and everybody here who is facilitating this University Scholar Series. It's a real pleasure, and I'm really excited to both talk about some of the work that I've done and some work that is presently in progress. All right, so where to start? Well, just real briefly, before I move into the essay that I am currently instructing, California, I do want to say just a word about the Confession of Copeland Cane. As Vin said, it recently won the Northern California Book Award for fiction, and it's funny at the little award ceremony, like when they're announcing all the different finalists for fiction category, they're just like for Chang Ray Lee's novel, there are all these superlatives, and for Shruti Swami, who's actually a Steinbeck Fellow a couple of years ago, for Shruti Swami's wonderful book, The Archer, which is the California Book Award winner, all these superlatives and all these books. I'm like, wow, these books sound amazing. And then they got to my book and they just like read a plot description. And I was like, I think I'd vote for one of these other books too. So I was really caught off guard when I won. But it just goes to show, right? Don't judge a book by its, award ceremony description. So, all right. So, yeah, but I'm grateful for that honor and for Copeland Cane getting a second life, the child who fell out of colored people time and into America. Let's move on at this point to Transparent California, the state of the state of planet California. And the reason for this rather long and overdone subtitle is that, California really is its own, I don't know, subnational kind of post-national entity. Among other things, we're aware of all the ways in which California is just sort of massive and exceptional. But as somebody who taught in California's community colleges for over 10 years, closer really to 15 years, and I believe last time I counted it up, I've taught at 9 different California community colleges, including 9 years full-time in San Jose at Evergreen Valley College before I came here. I know that California's community college system is especially unique, is especially exceptional. So among other things, just, of course, you could just like reel off a lot of statistics. I think the most obvious one, though, is that our community college system is the largest in terms of student enrollment in the country by far, right? With over 2 million students enrolled at any one time, and is, depending on the year and the fluctuations in student enrollment, is either the second or third largest college system in the entire world. Noel Breda-Williams, our chair in English, the other day asked me, well, what's first? And that would be Indira Gandhi National University in India. And then the CCs here, the CCC, is running neck and neck with Bangladesh National Open University. So there's your college enrollment trivia for the day. Let's see. So that's the basic way in which our community college system is so important. Now, obviously in the CSU, we're all very aware of its centrality. The fact that at any one time, 1 in 20 roughly California residents is a current community college student. That doesn't count all the past community college students, all the parents and brothers and sisters and so forth of community college students. So we're all in some way or another connected to this vast system. And what I'm interested in doing in this book of essays that I'm working on, Classroom California, it will one day be called, is to think about the community college system both in its practical detail from my perspective as a teacher, but also conceptually as this kind of vast multi-perspectival prism onto the state of our state. All the different ways that the system that encompasses so much of California also can reflect back to us who we are, where we've been, where we're going. And so that's the basic idea behind this. We'll just kind of see where it goes. I did a research trip recently where I flew down to San Diego and visited San Diego City College, and then just started working my way up the state, visiting community colleges and seeing where it went. So I'll tell you a little bit about where it went. Okay, so first of all, I guess I already covered that. If you Google San Diego CC, and folks, both in person and online, feel free to do this. If you Google San Diego CC or Los Angeles CC right now, just go for it, see what happens. And I'd like us to look at our first and second results. All right, so for months, several months after I started this project and planning this trip and so forth, the first thing that came up with San Diego CC was the country club. Now I think it's number 2 because school just started, right? So I think, oh, it's number 1 again? The country club's number 1 again? Yeah, see? Okay, there you go. It's back to number 1. And for Los Angeles CC, the country club is definitely number 1. So, I'm a, as well as being a scholar, I am a novelist. And so my sense of absurdity is, just my spidey sense of absurdity is kind of ticked by this, right? You would just think of this as an algorithmic impossibility, right? How many members does, I've been to one country club, as Noel knows, in my life. So I don't really have firm statistics on this, but how many people could actually be members of a country club at any one time or another? I don't know, a few hundred? I don't know. That's my guess. Currently, there are 21,000, or as of last spring, I should say, there is an unduplicated head count at San Diego CC of 21,835 students. If you take into account the rest of the San Diego's community college system, that's 67,647 students. I'm guessing the country club isn't actually getting quite as many hits as the city college. So wherefore this, algorithm, this algorithmic absurdity, who knows? But what I moved over to this slide a little too quickly, but whatever, it kind of illustrates where I'm going with this. The reason that this was interesting to me, of course, was because these two institutions are antithetical on many levels. Now, we might have some country club members here, and honestly, I actually don't have a problem with the country club as is. I have more of a problem with the expansion of the country club ethos beyond its natural borders. I'll get to that. But first I tried to go to the San Diego Country Club just so I could see what was drawing the masses of Californians, of San Diegans, to the country club. And yeah, this is what I found, a lot of money. So an individual equity membership, I had to go through a little bit of a process to find these figures. They are not publicly available. Is the standard initiation fee is $30,000, $1,150 monthly dues, etc. You see there, I can't afford any of that. Even on my associate professor salary, that's just not happening. I've unfortunately aged out of the junior executive membership, which is a little, is about half the going rate. Now, if I move into a student hostel, I could probably afford the basic national membership, but I've aged out of having 5 roommates. Unfortunately, I have not aged into getting rich. So this is the the basic problem. And I will say that San Diego's country club is like peanuts. It is, pretty pretty casual compared to the most exclusive country clubs in LA. There you see Los Angeles's most exclusive country clubs, including the original LACC, $180,000 initiation fee. They typically range between $150,000 and $200,000. Meanwhile, community colleges, right, are current $46 a unit. In fact, there is a concerted push in our community colleges, kind of as a really a canary in the coal mine of higher education, for no tuition, right? For no tuition, a no tuition approach, as San Diego CC President Ricky Shabazz said to me. So we'll talk about all that. But really, as I said, the if you when this essay comes out, when my transparent California essay comes out in Alta Literary Magazine in January of this year, you can read all about my attempts to enter the inner sanctum of San Diego's country club and just see what happens. So let's see. I did, however, go to San Diego City College, right? It was a little easier to get in there. San Diego, of course, like all border towns, is a dual citizen, right? Both Mexican and American. And that becomes starkly evident as I travel from the country club to the city college, from the ethnic demography to its economic demography, to just the kind of spatial and environmental difference that you see as you move from the space of rolling green fairways and all those other terms, golf terms that I don't know, greens, fairways, that's about all I got. And on to San Diego City College, right, which is just this weave, this kind of weave of concrete construction, one massive building after the next. And one of the here, let me just I'll move through this real quickly, but it stands again in direct contrast. And I want to mention just really quickly, and this speaks more to Los Angeles Country Club, but Malcolm Gladwell in one of his podcasts talks about the allocation of green space, right, in cities, and specifically how country clubs take up so much of our green space. This became kind of starkly evident to me when at San Diego City College, I happened upon these two girls who were rotating around a planter box. They were walking around a planter box. I was there on the first day of classes, I should say. And they were taking pictures of the planter box, peering into it, occasionally snapping pictures. When I asked them what they were doing, they told me that they had gone to the first class of the semester, a photography class. They told me they loved wildlife as they shared their captures of grasshoppers perched on green stalks and butterflies poised upon flower petals. And meanwhile, very poignantly, the Bank of America building and new apartment construction and the city college's own massiveness rose all about us, all around us, right, shrouding us in shadow. That spatial environmental difference is really is very stark, and it again really just points to the necessary role that public education in general, and particularly the community college, serves. Okay, going to the no tuition approach, and this is really what I enjoyed my two interviews, one via Zoom, the other in person with President Shabazz. But really what I came to, just kind of streamlining my, what I took away from our talk, was that the no tuition approach is part of a broader expansion. What in Shabazz's vision, as part of a broader expansion of the role of the community college in higher education, quote, if we're saying that the community college student, having earned their associate degree, is equally prepared as that incoming freshman to a university, we have to start making a case for community colleges offering bachelor's degrees. That is the next phase of this no tuition approach. And so I found this really interesting, right? I found this really interesting. When you work at a community college, as many of y'all know, a lot of things are piloted, a lot of education initiatives, a lot of pedagogical approaches, a lot of tuition approaches are piloted at community colleges before they reach universities, right? A lot of online platforms for teaching are piloted at community colleges before they reach universities. There are a lot of reasons for that, but I want to just kind of sit with that basic reality that I've observed in teaching at these different levels over the course of my career. I think it's highly likely that whether or not Shabazz's particular vision comes to pass, that this no tuition approach, which I really see as a necessary confrontation with the expansion of the country club ethos beyond, again, its borders, its gates, to our downtown streets, right? To these increasingly expensive, housing complexes and such, that it's a necessary confrontation with another kind of California that is under construction, that is very much under construction and is crowding so many people out of our cities and, unfortunately, our state itself. So, all right, from San Diego, I moved on to Los Angeles and the Hollywood Hotel, which is helpfully subtitled The Hotel of Hollywood. I should say too, and I forgot to say this at the start of our presentation here, or my presentation here, I want to thank our admins, and particularly Jasmina Tamayo, who did a lot of, really helped me a great deal with putting together this pretty complicated travel arrangements and so forth. At one point, one of the folks who helped me with booking these hotels said, "Enjoy your trip to Hollywood." And it is an understandable confusion because the Hollywood Hotel, the Hotel of Hollywood, is located in East Hollywood, which is a neighborhood in Los Angeles, right? And that neighborhood, of course, does not bear much resemblance at all to the popularly packaged ideas or images and so forth of Hollywood and of Los Angeles that go out to the world beyond Los Angeles' streets. Right? Of course, when you're actually at the Hollywood Hotel, the Hotel of Hollywood, you see that there are far more homeless tents than luxury handbags. You see that there's a that the economic conditions and so forth are ones that we're very familiar with here in urban California, but that once again really contradict the kind of popularly disseminated notions around what California is and what Los Angeles is. So there you see some of the economic indices, educational indices of East Hollywood. I traveled about 20 minutes east of East Hollywood to East Los Angeles College. That was the college that I visited in Los Angeles. And what was particularly, as I focused on sort of a different sector of the educational experience and the folks who are at community colleges and at each college that I visited. So in San Diego, as I said, I spoke at length with its president, President Shabazz. At East Los Angeles College, I interviewed several faculty members in the English department. And again, my essay will go into much greater depth with this. But one of the running themes, of course, was the particular toll that COVID has taken on Latinos in Los Angeles, in particular in East Los Angeles, and how that has borne upon the educational experience of East Los Angeles students. The LA Times reported that from 2019 to 2021, the death rate for Latinos in LA County increased by 48%. The death rate of Black Angelenos, by comparison, increased 23%. So, you have over double the rate of increase for Latinos. Asian Angelenos, 22%, and white residents saw a 7.6% increase in deaths. Just speaking very frankly, what was oftentimes seen in many more affluent white communities as a minor setback, and oftentimes functioned as a political weapon of war to instigate the recall of Governor Gavin Newsom, was an existential threat, right, to many Latinos and people of color in our cities. And that's just a fact about the divisions within our state that is inescapable. Chicano Studies Department Chair Beatrice Tapia said, COVID, quote, exploded a lot of what we've been saying for years and no one was listening to about the realities of our students. An English professor, Rayanna Gleason, said, quote, we had a lot of students who had sick parents or parents who died. So then the students had to take on extra financial responsibility. East LA is a very working class student population. So most of our students have jobs and familial responsibilities that are significant. I see a lot of students who are doing really well academically, but they're like, I have to drop out for a semester because of, a financial crisis. And then once they drop out for a semester, it's really hard to get back. We don't see a lot of people return. Despite all this, of course, the educational successes of East Los Angeles College, of the second LACC, Los Angeles Community College District in general, the largest of the community college systems in California, and of our community colleges and public education in general are many. And this was never no more evident than when I visited with I was there, I should say, at East LA College at ELAC. They hadn't yet started classes. I went to their PDD day, their professional development day, and a couple days before the start of classes. And so I ended up visiting a workshop, a pedagogy workshop with their Rising Scholars program. Now there are different versions of this at the CSU, the UC, and at Stanford as well. And so I just want to say here, for those who are not familiar, right? These are programs for the formerly incarcerated, students. Also, there are a number of professors at ELAC who themselves were formerly incarcerated. And really the academic successes of formerly incarcerated students and other marginalized students, which typically have their genesis in community college, form an unreported reality that reaches past the statistics of incarceration, homelessness, and addiction that are so commonly deployed to deride people of color, our communities, and California itself. From Los Angeles, I traveled up to Fresno CC, which I will admit is not my favorite place in the world. And if you're from Fresno, it's all good. My family is from Fresno too. And I will, this requires a little bit of background, right? On my mother's side, after the Tulsa massacre, my family left Oklahoma and eventually ended up in California's Central Valley. And let me just take a look at my notes right here. There's a lot I want to say about this. This is actually, for me, the most impactful part of this, this journey. because, well, for a lot of reasons. Let me just give y'all a little bit of history on, at this point in our history, right? Migrant labor and farm labor in California is very much, pretty much almost exclusively associated with Latinos, right? That was not always the case. Of course, there were many other groups, Filipinos, white people, and Black people, among others, who were in those fields as well. So let's see. It was into the San Joaquin Valley and into the area around Fresno that thousands of African-American families moved in the 1940s to escape Jim Crow segregation, widespread racial violence, and poverty. It's a history not many know, but in a state of 40 million souls, there are at least as many stories. Forbade by an unwritten Jim Crow from settling in the cities, Black folks created favela-like work camps on the outskirts, which became small unincorporated towns, which still stand today. Teviston, Dos Palos, Pixley, Raisin City, where my mother grew up, which was created decades earlier in 1907, but serves the same purpose to this day. On my second day in Fresno, I leave the city for this very small place. Here are the endless grape fields, which I've learned a lot of people like to call vineyards, as that suggests fine wine, even though in between the neatly rowed vines laid on the fine dust are spread thin brown papers, whereupon picked grapes are laid in bunches to raisin in the sun, right? I've never heard anybody in my family refer to a vineyard. Them's the fields. Despite their best efforts, the economic injustices of the South followed Black people into these fields. 6 cents a row they were paid, my mother remembers. 1,000 rows a day. They worked sunup to sundown in the blazing heat, she tells me. $60 in total for the family. She, her 8 siblings, her mother and father earned each day. I went back to my hotel and just thought for an entire day and an entire night about what, if anything, I could write about all this. What I came to is this. I wonder if a young person faced with the same circumstances that my mother came of age in would find more or fewer opportunities than she did in California's community colleges. And to be clear, right? My mother and her family members grew up in really desperate conditions. They didn't have indoor plumbing, the whole 9 yards, as they say. This was before the great boycotts. This is before the UFW. While there are many problems today, many injustices in the fields today, conditions have substantially improved because of labor activism, because of the work of unions and other activists. When my mother went to Fresno State, when a Fresno State professor learned that she was from the fields, he was shocked, right? She ended up getting 2 master's degrees and was kind of an academic star, but kids from the field rarely even made it to college, right? There's more I could say about that, but I'll leave that there for now. I spoke with Ernesto Cazares. There's more information here, and it's very wordy, but Ernesto Cazares is the counselor in the Puente program at Fresno City College. Puente provides tutoring in writing, cohort-based instruction in basic English and critical thinking classes, many other services. Yet Cazares acknowledges, quote, "There aren't a whole lot of resources for farm workers and the children of farm workers. This place is designed for students who already have resources. We do what we can. We acquired mobile hotspots, laptops, and tablets, but those weren't enough to serve our 20,000 students. We have computer labs, but you have to get here." And I want to emphasize that for all the propaganda in social media and on Fox News and on all these conservative networks about the blight in the streets of Los Angeles and San Francisco and places like this, again, the fact is that Republican-controlled Fresno has not only now, but for many years, according to several Brookings Institute studies over the last 20 years, the highest concentrated poverty in California and oftentimes in America, right? They did a study in 2006 called Katrina's Window after Katrina, looking at concentrated poverty in not just in cities, but in specific urban areas. In West Fresno, they found had the highest rate of concentrated poverty. When they came back in 2014 and did the same study, they found that it was second to an area just along the Texas-Mexico border, right? And so that's, that really, it's not that the left or the right has a poverty problem. California has a poverty problem. America has a poverty problem. And we really need to, think about it, in my view, like that. All right. That said, we're, ain't nobody safe here. So, you're right. The truth is that Puente is doing what it can to help provide an education to people whom American society largely does not care about. I'm just going to be real here, and sees as little more than fruit pickers and welfare cases when they are not being actively hostile toward them. On August 26, 2022, the UFW, the United Farm Workers, completed a 355-mile march to the state capitol in Sacramento, where they called for the passage of Assembly Bill 2183. The bill would have allowed farm laborers to vote remotely in union elections, rather than only being able to vote in person on grower property. Union organizers cite on-premises voting as a suppression tool that exposes laborers to abuse and intimidation by foremen, supervisors, and contractors. That these concerns remain dire despite decades of struggle becomes apparent for me as I approach the street-facing front of the UFW Foundation offices. Opaque privacy glass stares back at me, reflecting only pieces of myself and the scattered sunlight behind me. Yet on the same day that UFW marchers arrived at the Capitol, Governor Gavin Newsom, owner of Plumpjack Winery, promptly vetoed their bill, bluntly indicating that his grandstanding liberal progressivism ends where his economic interests begin. I also, how much time do I have left? 5 minutes. Yeah. I also went after Fresno to Sonora, California, which is, going toward Yosemite National Park. And Columbia College was the college that I visited out there, Gold Country. And Gold Country is very different from all these other places, all these big urban areas. The most obvious difference is that it's over 90% white, and most of in urban California is obviously not. And so that's one obvious difference. There are many other obvious differences, but what really struck me more than those obvious differences, it's obvious that we live in a divided state, that our opportunities, our economic opportunities and so forth are vastly different depending on our stations in life. But what really struck me were the similarities that were hiding in plain sight. Right now, all Sonora high school students who go on to college at Columbia College, the community college in Sonora, go for free. On top of that, all Columbia College students have a free semester in Sonora. This is in the middle of a county where 60% of voters voted for Donald Trump, right? On the other hand, right, we also had the no tuition approach in San Diego City College, where 58% of voters voted for Joe Biden in 2020. So what you found, and when I talked to students, there I focused, on talking to students themselves, to a person, they spoke of the fact that they had been attracted to Columbia College because of the no tuition approach, right? These students, almost all of whom were white, right, were drawn to the community college for the same reasons that the primarily Black and brown students in Fresno and Los Angeles and so forth were drawn to community college. Beyond that, many of the same existential threats or existential threats, maybe not the same existential threats, but existential threats that are just as deep and just as just as potentially destructive, haunted the space there, right? And it was no more apparent than just like going outside and breathing the air, right? Hospitality, hotel staff, and so forth were at great pains to insist to me that the Yosemite fires were very, very far away, which they were, but the air blew the smoke trail west, and actually thought I had COVID for like a whole day, just because I couldn't breathe. I took like 3 tests. It's okay, I don't have COVID. But and we know from from what's happened in Paradise and other areas in these more far-flung parts of our state, that they are the most exposed. We're all at threat, really, from the environmental devastation, but they are most at threat from the wildfires. Really only one bad day away from losing everything, which I've got to say is not unlike in its sheer terror and randomness the many existential threats that hardworking Black and Latino and Asian folks in our cities face every day as well. And as I left and came back to the Bay, right, we just experienced it, that the harshest heat wave, the most intense heat wave of our whole year was rising to meet all of us from the Gold Country to the coast. It's really important that we remember these similarities as well as our differences. Okay, that's all I got for you. So. Okay, I think I'm supposed to open the floor to questions. Again, this is the way I'm kind of situating this is that it will be the first essay in a book of essays about different aspects of the community college system. Again, both practically, certain practical things related to my experience working at that level, and things that are going on now post my community college days, but also this more conceptual level at which I'm looking at this system as sort of a prism of a miniature, Californian miniature. So okay, yeah, anybody?
California is a big state, and you've only done a few community colleges. Are you planning to include others?
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, it's not fun to drive around in 100-degree heat from one city to the next, but yeah, I'm going to Sacramento City College. I've also done a good deal of work on both Laney College in Oakland and Evergreen, my community college in San Jose. So those are going to, I'm looking at one to two colleges in each of these regions. But yeah, I mean, they're 112 or 115 community colleges throughout the state. So yeah, no matter how many I get to, it is going to necessarily just be a snapshot, right, of the total system. So
yeah. That was really wonderful. Thank you. The question I have is, you started veering into some more personal details about your family history, and I've found myself gravitating towards that as well. And I'm wondering if you're going to be weaving some of that into a few of the essays that you're working on in order to give us a fuller picture. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, this is not going to be a textbook, right? That I come from, my background is more in the personal essay. And so that's sort of the foundation of my work as an essayist. So most certainly I will. There's a lot more to, to this part of, or to that part of this essay than I presented, than I was able to present in the, time given. So yeah, and and honestly, like, I'm learning a lot about, Black folks in the Central Valley and our history in the Central Valley and so forth. It's also, and this is something else that the counselor Ernesto Cazares brought up, a lot of students coming from farm worker backgrounds, there's a lot of, there can be embarrassment and shame, right? That comes with, coming to, even a community college or a state university, that we might not consider an elite space, but oftentimes, they will. And even within my family, that's something, that, there are people have a lot of walls up, right? And it's not necessarily easy to, to work around those and to break through those in order to access that history, which is not, which is not easily accessible, right? So yeah, it's a process, but yeah, on the road to it. Yeah. Oh, cool. Okay, so shall I take a couple of questions from here? Yeah. Okay, so the one question from Dimple Mulchandani, apologies if I mispronounce your name. The no tuition at LA Community College and San Diego Community College, is that for international students as well? No, would be the basic answer, but but what I really want to get at is that this is that this no tuition approach, which is basically part of the Promise program, California's Promise program, is again harbinger for for things to come, and is likely to be expanded to more and more groups of students, and so really there is just again this confrontation between these the mounting student debt crisis on the one hand, and these efforts at really lowering the cost burden for students. So yeah, community college students face enormous challenges. Paul McNamara writes, when transferring to the CSU or UC, mostly cultural, beyond curricular articulation, are you looking at the disparities that CCC students face to actually graduate with a BA or BS? For example, at San Jose State, the focus is on first time and other freshmen, many fewer resources and welcoming efforts for transfer students. It's similar throughout the state. Yeah, that's a great point. And I, really invite students who, both current and former, so that might include anybody in this room, and anybody on this Zoom webinar, to share your experiences with me. KEENAN.NORRIS@sjsu.edu. Yeah, feel free to just get in touch with me. Yeah, I'm interested in a lot of different perspectives on the community college experience. Pamela writes, thank you for your thoughtful presentation. How do we ensure community college students have multiple pathways upon graduation, that is ensuring transitions into four-year institutions is possible while being in better paying jobs? Yeah, that's so I think if I'm understanding your question correctly, it has to do with professionalization, right, Pamela? And I think there are probably people in this room who are better equipped to answer that than I am. But I think, again, the community college is particularly well situated and to the extent that the CSU and even the UC adopt some of the same modes of instructional delivery. I think the CCC, because of its nature, is particularly well suited to adapt to changes in the economy and to the needs of students upon graduation. So one thing you find when you teach community college is that it's a really good barometer on the ground barometer of changes within the economy at any one time. So like, for example, during the Great Recession, you saw, suddenly there are all these construction workers, who are in our classes, right? Because homes weren't being built and now all these people needed, new skills training, right? And that's very different, frankly, from the experience that you'd have teaching at Berkeley or at Stanford. You're not going to get nearly as many of those students directly, after their, after being laid off for the most part. So because the CCC is sort of more on that ground level where people are experiencing those economic shocks and then having to respond to them, you do see that. So I'm interested in the ways, in the sort of immediately reactive nature of the community college, both at the administrative level, which is I think where your question is focused, but also at the experiential level for professors and students. So yeah.
Yeah, so I want to say I really appreciate you going into your family's history, just because I'm also from the Central Valley as well too. So my family's from Delano and Tulare.
Yeah.
And so you were talking about your grandma, right? And I have a similar experience with my grandma too. She grew up in the Tulare area and she went to Fresno City College and she went to Fresno State as well too and got her BA there.
Mm-hmm.
And so like you said, like that community college is really a fundamental part of kind of like let's say people in in marginalized conditions to uplift themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even within Delano per se right now, I would think that there's a lot of high school students. I think it's probably a good something to think about is that a lot of students who in these communities, they do take extra courses at community colleges as well too, right?
Mm-hmm.
To able to get into to get some extra credits or to be able to get their AAs faster,
Yeah.
So I think that kind of focusing on the perspectives of high school students who are taking college courses a little bit,
Yeah.
I think will be a really interesting perspective.
Yeah, I appreciate the suggestion. I will definitely take that into account. Right. Again, this is a work in progress.
Yeah.
So I'm as interested in feedback on ways I could expand or think differently about this project as I am in, just sort of propounding what I think right now. Right. So thank you, first of all. I do want to just slightly correct one thing you said, which is that I was not relating the experience of my grandmother. That was the experience of my mother. And I think that it's all good. I think that one thing, and I'm not focusing on you, but is that we sometimes have a tendency to think about these things as being way deep in the past, like this level of injustice, this level of economic injustice. But I'm 41 years old, right? That was my mother, right? Who was working 6 cents a row, 1,000 rows a day, right? Basically until she went to college. Yeah.
Hey, Keenan, thank you for that. I'm really sort of fascinated by the point you made early in your talk about the inevitable confrontation of the CC and the CC. And I wondered if you'd be willing to speculate about what you think that might look like at some point in the future or the present.
I mean, that's a good question, Ryan. Thank you for your question. I mean, I just think I just speaking very bluntly, I think this is the essential the essential split in American history, right? I mean, this is a country that was founded by slaveholders that said they were escaping slavery because they didn't like their tax situation, and up against all the different classes of disenfranchised people in this country. So I mean, starting from that rather inequitable basis, right? We've always had this this basic tension. I mean, honestly, if I look outside, right, not directly outside, but a little further down, I see the country club winning, but I also see that we got the numbers. So yeah, just I don't know, but right now I see the country club winning.
I think we have time for one more question, so that
College. And
We need your microphone so people can hear you online.
yes, and I'm now a faculty advisor and faculty in the school of journalism. And what I see on orientation days and things like that, I don't understand why we don't have people who were products or are products of the community college system running those orientations. And then the other thing is that I'm noticing a lot, we don't have enough mentoring for our community college students, and there are so many barricades. I have never seen so many blocks and so many holds on accounts. Just as one example, one of my community college student transfer accidentally put West Valley instead of Foothill. And all of his GE had already been transferred from Evergreen College. He already had an AA. And as his advisor, I'm trying to talk to the registrar and the dean and anyone who would listen. Can you please let the student enroll in classes at this institution where enrollment is down? And he had to drive over to West Valley yesterday physically and get proof stamped that he had never been a student there. And then the registrar didn't want to take it. They said, well, we'll have to wait 2 or 3 days for an email. Since when does an email take 2 or 3 days? We finally got him through, but I mean, we've got to look at putting up fewer blocks. And I think doing a little bit more mentoring from other students and from other faculty.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree. And I think, yeah, having people who have direct experience, right? This kind of goes to an earlier question or an earlier statement that somebody made in the chat, I believe. Yeah, we need folks with direct experience and thus direct sensitivities, right? Because such a high percentage of our students are coming from the CC, right? Here, so and people in administrative and faculty roles who have that experience. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's so many more.
Yeah. Your point is very well taken. Yeah. Well, all right.
All right.
Thank you,
Well,
everybody.
I think we should all thank Keenan very much for an outstanding talk. I just want to say, good thing the provost is here to hear that. So maybe something we can work on. And I also want to say Comic-Con was the second thing that came up under San Diego CC. Just so you know, the community college wasn't even number 2 in the list. Anyway, again, thank you very much, Keenan. Thank you for everybody being here. Thank you to everyone online. Really appreciate it. It's an amazing conversation. More to come. I have a feeling I know what we're going to hand our transfer students next fall when they come in. It's a chapter from your book so that they can start to read and engage it. So thank you, everyone.